Okay, so a lot of people have asked me if I could walk you through the suggested reading order for, well, all my books. Well, at least all my books that have to do with fairy tales. So let's just quickly go over these, shall we? As of right now, I have 3 existing series, 2 of them complete, but all 3 of these exist in the same world. We got Red Origins, which is historical fantasy dealing with the historical truth about Red Riding Hood. We have Red Chronicles, which is a descendant of hers in the modern time dealing with the consequences of what Little Red Riding Hood did. And we have Vampire Sovereigns, which is in the same world but is a romance centered on later in life. Okay, so the OG book, original book that I released was Reluctant, the first book in the Red Chronicles series. This is where I suggest you start with anything. Now keep in mind, the caveat is you can start anywhere you want. You could start with the first book, that is, anywhere you want, and be just fine. You might miss a few nuances, you might miss a few Easter eggs, but you're going to be able to follow. But my suggestion, if you want it, is that you start with Reluctant, then actually go back to the prequel to read Requited. The reason for that is that I originally wrote the prequel to be a bonus book for people who already read book 1. So again, you could read the prequel before Reluctant, as the name I stupidly chose for it suggests that it's a book that comes beforehand, which is true chronologically, but not necessarily reading order-wise. So my suggested order here is Reluctant, Requited, Relinquished, Ravening. And then I suggest after Ravening, you jump over to Red Origins and then intersperse them. So go Ravening, Beauty and the Betrayer, Rebellious, Wolf and the Watcher, but then swap out or read together at the same time Red and the Restorer and Righteous. If you wanted to do a whole series at a time, Red Chronicles all the way through, and then Red Origins. Again, you could read Red Origins before Red Chronicles, but I think you're going to get a more fulfilling experience out of it if you read Red Origins after Red Chronicles. Now, Red Origins, it should be noted, is not an urban fantasy. It is a historical fantasy. It could also be qualified as a romantasy series, but it is a tragic romance. And I don't feel like I'm giving away any spoilers there, especially if you read this one, because you already kind of know the story of Red Riding Hood and it exists in this world if you've read any of the Red Chronicles series. It is spicy at times, the prequel series, but it is ultimately a tragedy, and I do declare that because romance readers tend to like happily ever afters, and this isn't one. So I want you to know what you're getting when you go in. Now, Vampire Sovereigns currently only has 1 released title in the series, Venice Dusk. It is available chronologically. It happens in time with Rebellious. So if you wanted to read them in order, you could sneak away on the side of Venice Dusk, or the side of Rebellious here, and read Venice Dusk. You could also read it as an independent series, not connected with anything. It reads very well that way. I am currently working on book number 2, Medici Moon, which should be out sometime in 2025. Now, you also notice we have this little area down here that I have not yet spoken of. Slayers Inc. is the series that I have been trying to write for 5 years. The good news is I have finally finished the manuscript of the first book, and is currently in revisions. So Slayers Inc. will be out sometime here in the first half of 2025. I still don't have a title for the first book, so you don't see one here, but that book is written. Again, this is a new series set in the same world, so you could start with Slayers Inc. just fine when it comes out and not be lost at all. Some of you who've read previous books might find a little bit of the setup tedious because it will be reminding people of things, or in this case, teaching people things they might not know about things that happened before. But it can be read from scratch as an independent series. But I will suggest anybody who's interested in reading in the previous series make sure you've at least read Red Chronicles before attempting Slayers Inc. Now, this is the way things stand in January 2025. As I add more titles to this world, which is my plan this year, hoping for 3, maybe 4, I will update with new videos with my recommended reading order, and I will also be posting this shortly on my website. So just one more time, my suggested reading order is Reluctant, Requited, Relinquished, Ravening, Beauty and the Betrayer, Rebellious, Wolf and the Watcher, the last book in these 2 series, either simultaneously or Red and the Restorer first, Vampire Sovereigns in any way you want if you want to read a paranormal romance, but Venice Dusk lines up nicely with Rebellious, and Slayers Inc. anytime after you've read Red Chronicles if you want a fully invested idea about what's going on in this world. Thank you so much. Hope that clears things up.